Oh, we're back and live again, eh? The
Yes, sir.
the situation we're picking up right where we left off, and we've got some really good things to do tonight. I've been looking at the images for some time now. We're going to start it off with the animals, and we're going to move right on through. Where my favorite category, of course, is going to be creative, and I'm going to look forward to spending probably a little bit more time there, only because I like to. I really love the category of creative. But just a couple opening remarks to get section two off and running. Um, in what is the camera? When you're going out and you're in the field, or maybe you're in the studio and you're working with models, the camera is a
Okay.
storytelling tool. Think of it as a storytelling tool. And when you're walking around out in the field and you are going to look at where you're going to stand and put together a composition in your head prior to capturing the image, that's critical thinking. Seeing something, picking up the camera, hitting the shutter, and creating a grab shot doesn't necessarily get you off at a good starting position when it comes to post photography. Take your time in composing. Try different angles, try different perspectives. When we met live a couple of months ago, one of the things I was emphasizing was, especially with animals, get down low, shoot from a height of maybe 12 inches off the ground and shoot up, instead of everybody shooting from eye level and getting the same perspective. Consider, if you will, getting down low and shooting. It's a different perspective. It makes the photograph so much more important and informative. The problem with that, of course, is that being my age, getting up is another issue altogether. So if you're getting down low to shoot, make sure you have someone with you to help you get back up. That's just a little sidebar. Let's get it going. Give me number one.
Number one.
Grumpy Branch Manager. Beautiful shot. Wonderful. One could say that, Dave, it has natural framing. I don't know in this particular instance if that natural framing holds up. I take a look at that branch on the left-hand side. To me, it acts more as a barrier. And I would like the maker to consider cropping that branch on the left off and having the other branch, which comes out of the upper left-hand corner, just come over the top. Just come over the top like that. I believe that the branch on the left inhibits the eye. It acts more as a barrier and doesn't necessarily contribute to the image. I believe it takes away. So would the maker consider cropping that side off? I think you might want to consider that. Denoise is another issue here you might want to take a look at. You can, if you don't have some ancillary programs that deal specifically with denoise, if you're in Photoshop or in Lightroom, luminance would be a good consideration there. There's still a lot of noise. Depth of field in this particular shot is so good. It is really, really good. You don't see the hand of man in the back. And the colors are just wonderful. The background color green does not compete with the colors of the subject. That's really important in any form of photography. If you've got a background having colors, tones that compete with the same colors and tones necessarily with the subject, it's more of a competition. This particular image is so really well done, and I applaud the photographer. Next. Good one, Becky. Well, this one I looked at for a long time. Those dewdrops, those raindrops are really, really important. That captures the image. In this particular one, the only thing I considered is you might want to consider, this isn't overly critical, but if that subject could be tilted just a skosh counterclockwise, give it more of a coming out of the corner, that would be good. But the only other thing is that we've got an unwanted subject there. And if you take a look below the grasshoppers, you see we've got a fly. Can everybody see the fly down there? Spot
Yeah.
removal could have solved that very, very nicely. But this is terrific. You know, this shot is so good and so tight. If you take a look at the eye of the insect, you can actually see the individual cells. This was so well done. I would imagine this was not handheld, but really good shot, Bob. I applaud you. Next. Okay, so now we've got the giant blue taking off. We've got the water droplets. I think highlights is something we should talk about, and it's not quite sharp, not quite sharp. Maybe a little bit of HDR was introduced here because the feathers are so well defined that they don't necessarily look natural. I like the water droplets, the feet coming out of that lower corner, really great, really terrific. A little more room for maybe it was overly cropped left and right, but it's a fine shot. The fact that the bird has its head tilted to the left makes this a really fine image. If the bird was looking to the right, believe it or not, to me, because it's tilted that way, it's going that way, it's looking that way, it's going from the lower right to the upper left corner. Very, very nice. I think the cropping perhaps is a little too tight, a little too tight. I would like to see more room left and right, especially on the top, so you could give the bird a place to fly. Give the bird a place to fly, place to go. Brian, very fine image, however. Wings of Silence. Here's a photograph that exhibits what we call line very nicely. If that bird were to be taken out, would it still be a fine shot? Yeah, it would. Really nice meadow, mist in the background. You can feel the mood of the mist. But now we have a subject there, and I'm just wondering, is the bird that important to the shot? Because if the bird wasn't there, once again, it's a fine landscape image. But now that we do have this bird, I would like to have seen him a little bigger, and perhaps I would like to see him more left of center, so he has room to fly off to the right. But it's really nice. I love the tonal values, especially through the foreground. Not tack sharp, but it works here. It's not tack sharp throughout, but it works here. My only comment is consider if the subject is going to stay, if it's possible, not that difficult to do, just pick up that bird and move him left, give him more room to fly, or no bird at all. And that would look great on metal. Thank you, Carol. Eye of the Dragon. I think that our background is too robust and that it's taking away from our subject, this wonderful dragonfly. We've got a depth of field issue here. And the image that I'm looking at, the part that is absolutely spot on is the second wing. Everything else is diffused. This therefore becomes an aperture setting issue. If this had been captured somewhere around f8, maybe we could have solved that. But I think we've got a great subject. I like its placement in the frame. We've got room all around. but the blue flower in the upper left and through the foreground is taking away from our ability to stay focused on the subject. So once again, consider aperture when you're setting up for the shot. In post-production, if it's possible, to start with taking green and selectively desaturate, making those greens look more towards the grayscale. That would allow the subject to stand up more. And if we were somewhere around F8, maybe we could have kept the entire subject in focus, because right now, from the beginning through to the end, it's diffused out. But a fine image, Charlie. Thank you. The bear, the old bear trick here. To me, it's all about the eyes. The eyes of the bear are brilliant. It really keeps the viewer's eyes focused on the subject, not to mention the eye of the salmon. Background I like to see darkened a bit more. The highlights in the background, again, we all hear this. Where does the eye go from the viewer? Source of light, source of light. And so the background here of this stream, if we could tone down the value through highlights, if you just want to just touch it with a little vignette. I'm not a big fan, but maybe here's a place. The shutter speed is wonderful. Look at the drops falling down there. Well done. The colors of the fish as composed to the colors in the rest of the composition are so important, so well, stands up very nice. But the tilt of the head on that bear and those eyes are special. Really, really great shot. Really, really wonderful. Thank you, Dan. This is what we call a graphic shot. Great shot. In the wild. I wonder if our photographer, can you put the photographer's name up? Dan, were you that close? Or hopefully you used a 600mm lens. Very nice shot. Great action shot. Great natural shot. Dropping the highlights in that background a little bit, hitting dehaze. Dehaze would have been a really good slider to consider. But look at the clarity on the skin of the alligator. Wonderful. Great detail, raw image, in your face. Special. Good one. So here we have what I call an action-packed image. A lot of chaos. Does it tell a story? Sure does. Survival of the fittest. It's a great story. Interesting to note that the difference between the laughing gulls and the other two birds really sets the tone of the haves and the have-nots. I would like to have seen a little tighter, a little sharper focus, highlights down. Shooting on a beach is not easy. Shooting on a beach is not easy. The sun comes in, that light reflects back into your camera. Aperture setting here was really wonderful. Background diffuses off, really good. Yeah, that's a good one, Helen. Yeah, and I like the fact that the bird down in that lower left corner having something to eat, and that's what everybody is chasing, that chaos that's going on there. Great action capture. Yeah, the Royal Terns just trying to protect what you've got there. Thank you. Next. Really, really good. Those jewel tones in the background are nicely captured. Like that, room around the frame. action. Can't imagine for a moment that this heron was able to swallow that thing, but great nonetheless. There's a slider in Lightroom, and I'm going to imagine that it is in Photoshop as well, called Scale. If you go to the Scale slider, it essentially picks a point that is in the center of your composition, and it pulls it out. It draws the subject almost off the computer towards the viewer. This would be a great place to hit Scale and bring this action closer to the viewer. It's like bending, it's like taking it, if it was on paper, it would be like bending it out. If anybody wants to make a note, anytime you've got a subject that's in the center and you want to bring it closer, everybody crops. Everybody crops. Go to the Scale slider. It'll take the center and pull it out towards the viewer. And it's a very, very effective post-production application. Very nice. Thank you. A good one to be sure. Natural framing, eye contact, 3, not 2, not 4. 3 is a magic number. Excellent. Love the texture in the trees. All comes together like this. It's a wonderful shot. I'm going to guess that this was something taken on one of those safari trips as opposed to a zoo where you constantly fight with a hand of man. But the eye contact with the viewer is special. It is absolutely special. And it tells a story. Cropping, perfect. Eye contact, perfect. You want to pull some highlights out of the sky, you got to fine. But generally speaking, it's a wonderful composition, Gene. Thank you for sharing. I love the balance between, I'm going to guess these are grouses. Is grouses plural, or is it grouse? I don't know, is there a plural form of grouses? Birds. Wonderful kind of birds. Coming out of the upper left-hand corner, action, tight, depth of field, perfect. Absolutely perfect. This is a great shot. I can only say the nicest things about it. The cropping, perfect. The detail in the whites, still there, nothing's blown out. You know, whites in nature photography is something that is a very, very delicate balance. All you have to do is just, especially nature photography, because you're constantly moving here, you're moving here, and so you can lose control very, very quickly of the lights and the direction of the sun and how it's going to affect your settings, when in fact there's no time to adjust your settings. You've got your settings and you shoot, and the whites are blown out. This is good. This is really good. Yeah, coming out of that upper right-hand corner, very nice. Thank you, Jerry. Love the action. I think we have a highlight situation here, and I think that Dee Hayes in post-production would have been an interesting call to kind of take those highlights away and let the viewer enjoy the expressions on the faces of these birds. The foreground, the cactus, is wonderful, but they're blown away by the light value. I think that adding Dee Hayes texture, it would have been, for instance, if you see the spines in the cactus, having those spines show themselves more clearly would have added a certain amount more drama to this image. Again, the whites, the situation, very difficult in nature photography, but capturing this image was really done. Aperture setting here, spot on, really good. No sense of the hand of man. There's nothing in the background that takes away from the subject, except the light value, I think, is a little too strong. You know, we talk about this all the time. We look at something and it goes right to the light. If you're able to just capture the background only in masking, if that's capable in your programming, I would drop that light back and allow that subject to stand out. Very nice, Kay. This is a special image. Focus is perfect. And when you've got a depth of field that supports the focus so that you can able to see something so small, so clearly, defines the composition. And the black value that surrounds it on the left doesn't take away from anything. It allows the subject to stand on its own. The detail is magnificent. This is a very special image. I think that the other day we saw other images that were underwater. We had a discussion. Was this shot in an aquarium or was this shot in actual light, submerged? Here it's easier to tell, I believe, that this is actually shot underwater. The whites are standing up nicely. The lighting is so good. The detail is perfect. Hats off. Hats off. This is a special image, even though on my computer it's numbered 13. Won't let that take that away. That was good. All right. Thorny perch. You know, I couldn't decide when I saw this for the first time if the maker had shot this and then pivoted so that the branch was bent. Was this originally vertical and did the maker turn it? If the maker turned the vertical shot, that is very creative because I like it. It's really nice. So now I'm drilling down and I'm looking at the feet of this bird, and you can see he's grabbing on. So maybe he is hanging there. I don't know. He's got that other hand coming up as if he's about to fall. The spines on this branch are sharp and tack, and the feathers are good. And the background is perfect. The subject stands on its own. Colors are good. They're balanced. That soft green in the background is a nice touch. Really, really nice, Kay. Yeah, that's a good one to be sure. So every time I look at it, I just go like this, I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to assume that's the way it was shot. But anyway, very nice. Thank you. Puffins. Love the contrast between the lights and darks. I think this might be a good example of masking and taking the background down. And if, in fact, it was done that way in post-production, good call. Because now the whites of the puffin stand up, the oranges just pop. It's crisp. There's nothing in the background that takes away from it. And it's very, very nice. Again, I'm not a big fan of subjects smack dab in the middle, but that's just me. Here's just an idea. If you took the image prior to cropping and then you tilted it 15 to 20 degrees, because there's nothing in the background that would necessarily say you did tilt it. I just want to put the puffin like this, give it a little more gesture. Wonder how that would have looked. Something to consider maybe. Just take a look at that. I wouldn't be concerned about the rocks looking like you tilted it if it's a natural setting. But anytime tilt is such a valuable tool, especially in portraiture. When you're in the studio and you're shooting the human form and they're sitting there straight up and down, and then the worst thing, of course, is that then they want to smile, which is the worst thing in the studio for a model. But tilting them, giving them gesture through a tilt is such a valuable way of showing your subject. I think here might be interesting. Just kind of think about it. Good one, Linda. This is well, to start it off with, I wish I had taken this. My goodness. It is extremely difficult to shoot snow and ice. It just raises hell with everything in your light values. And here, the whites are crisp and clean. The feathers of the subject have been softened, maybe through luminance, to the point where it's just a wonderful photograph. And there's plenty of room for the bird to be looking off to the left. There's just enough yellow in the beak to make it special. It's a gentle, wonderful portrayal of this gull. And to deal with the lighting conditions under which this was shot was very, very difficult. And yet it came out. This is just wonderful. This belongs on metal on your wall. I can't say enough nice things about this. Wonderful. Good one, Lynn. In nature, one of the one of the things we look for is the eye. The eye is so important. When I'm teaching, I'll give an example out at the alligator farm, and I'll see people taking pictures of these egrets as they're flying, and the egret will come through, and as the egret turns and goes away, they're still shooting. And now they get a picture of a bird flying away and you can't see the eyes. Once you lost the eye, stop shooting. If we had the eye in this shot, it would have been so much more impactful. That's my comment about it. The whites and the snow held up nicely. We've got our subject right in the middle for the most part. I like the paw up like that. It's essentially saying something. Again, photography is storytelling. Don't bother me, I'm sleeping. That's an important component to the photograph. And knowing that paw was so important, and knowing that we don't have an eye, maybe we should have cropped in much more severely and allowed that paw to become more prominent in the image, as opposed to having it right there. Yeah. Good whites on the snow, good texture on the snow. Very, very nice work. Thank you, Lynn. I'm going to guess Huguenot State Park. For those of you who have never been to Huguenot State Park to photograph the terns, unbelievable. What a place. Oh my goodness. I love the angle of the two birds, the relationship between the chick and the parent. Would have been nice to have a piece of bait there, yes. But in this particular instance, the eye contact between the two subjects is strong and it's good. The cropping, perfect. We don't have any tail feathers cut off, nothing on top. The depth of field, if you take a look at what's sharp and what's out of focus, perfect. Look at the foreground, diffuse. Look at the background, completely diffused. And the relationship between the parent and the baby chick is expressed and captured so well. Really, really nicely. Lynn, you really know your camera, and you really know, in this particular instance, the correct aperture to select. Because when you're shooting things like this, there's so many things can be disrupted. Small pieces of shell, hand of man will find its way in there, all kinds of things. I'm hoping you probably use spot removal. I'm just guessing. But your aperture setting in this is as good as it can be. Really good. Thanks, Lynn. I've always wanted to take this image. Never had the chance. Breaching whale. I think with a sharper and a faster shutter speed, we would have had more emphasis on the droplets of water, which would have added to the print. Your horizon is nice, straight. The skies is nice and tight. Would have been nice if we had a couple of clouds, but that's not your fault. The subject is the whale. The subject is breaching. The subject is the water coming down. And that being the case, you captured that. It's a very fine image. Got the tail pointing up to the left, the nose of the mammal to the right. So your placement is really, really nice. Good one, Linda. This is a great example of gesture. And I can see that the maker took their time in post-production to give us that, because the cropping is really good. Post coming out of the corner, the look on the face. Remember we were talking just a couple of minutes ago about tilt? See the tilt in the head of this animal? So much better than if, well, we've got this tilt here, and look how it found its way into the title. In the hands, praying. They fit together so well. The title and the gesture and mood of our subject, there's nothing in the background that takes away from this subject. So it stands on its own petard, if you will. The hands crossed like this, special, really completes the title and gives a sense of what we have here. You can feel in this image the emotion. Storytelling. Another good example of storytelling with your camera. Good one. Thank you. So this is a great conversation we're going to have about cropping. Because he's already lost his tail. So that being the case, let's crop him hard. Let's crop him all the way up and take off his back legs, because the molting process is really the story. And we've already cut his tail off, so let's really cut it off. Bring that left edge all the way in and take out the back leg, and let's concentrate on the molting process of this lizard. That's going to allow us to shorten the foreground. So let's come up on the crop on the bottom. Let's take 3 inches off the bottom. And now we can drill down and we can see the texture that exists in the molted skin and the texture in the new skin and the eye. This can be really, really good, I think, by doing that. And it started out because we already lost the tail. So if you're going to lose, bring it in. Let's drill down. Let's let the viewer see what really goes on during this natural process. Good one, Lori. Good capture. Natural setting. Looking lower left. I like the dark tones contributing to the overall composition. Good natural setting. It's just a fine image. There's nothing that can really be, I don't want to use the word picked on, but it's a fine image. The blue in the upper hand right corner, I would have liked to have seen more blue. For instance, if we could crop up a couple inches from the bottom and then give it more room on top, we would have created more of a natural setting. You would have seen more of the environment in which this bird is raising its chicks. Here we've got a little bit of ocean in the back, but if we had more, it would give the viewer more of a sense of location that this nest is really close to the water. It's up on this ledge. And I think if we gave more emphasis to location by increasing the ocean in the back and taking away a bit from the bottom, then it would be more of a complete story. Yeah, that's good. I like the texture in the vulture, but I'm blown over by the gold tones in the background. This is wonderful capture, but the minute that the image came up, first thing I saw wasn't the wonderful bird, but the light value of the gold. And I think it's too strong. I think if we drop that back just a bit, 50%, then the vulture would have come off the canvas just a little more to a point where we could study it more quickly. I think that's the only thing I can say that you might want to consider. Eye contact, it's right there. Texture on the head, really good. The viewer really wants to see what these vultures are made of. You know, it's not, we don't normally get that close to a vulture, but you've gotten close. But the yellow is too strong, in my opinion. I think you might want to consider taking that value down. Selective desaturation in post-production, grab yellow and just pull that slider to the left, and that'll just drop down. Thank you, Nathan. This is a really good image. Yeah, it really is. This is strong. Maybe we should just casually mention that the cropping is plenty of room in front, plenty of room on top, but if they could be equidistant, might be a consideration, not a negative comment, but a consideration of your room at the right and your room at the top being equidistant. The eye is terrific. The pointing of the bill to the corner, wonderful. Really, really good. I love the contrast in those little white feathers. I don't necessarily see on my screen any situation associated with noise. It's a fine image. It's a fine, fine image. Just maybe balance off, if you will, the cropping. Good one, Nate. Yeah, this is whoever took this took their time. Tail to the corner, beak to the corner. But the light values, in my opinion, are reversed. The light values in the background are stronger than the light values on the subject. If the bird light could come up and the background down, then the bird will become more dominant in the composition. Because I'm looking through right now, I look real quick, I'm looking through the bird to the light source, and that's got to come down. You can do a combination of two things, desaturating the background a bit and reducing the light value, and then grabbing through masking the bird and just giving it just a little more light. Just reverse those two things. But this is a fine image. Again, that's a hummingbird, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Oops, I went too far. Don't look, anybody.
Don't look.
Hang on, it won't go backwards.
No attention to that woman behind the screen.
I'm trying to go backwards. Hold on. Back. I think this is it.
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
Patrick is 26.
Okay, good. And you already said his name, so I'll show it.
That's a difficult shot to capture. allowing that bird to come down. I'm going to guess it's a golden finch, perhaps. But allowing that bird to come down through that opening in the foliage into the foreground, really nice. Bird's got a place to come into during what appears to be a rainstorm. Branch coming out of the right, good. Cropping good. The only thing I might want to say is a faster shutter speed would have been a consideration. Those the wings, if we could just stop that just a little more. If you look at some of the raindrops in the back, you can tell through the shutter speed that you can see that there's this little streak in them. Just a little streak. That's of course a sign of the fact the shutter speed could have been a little higher. I don't know what the details were on that, but somewhere around 0.02 of a second would have been a suggestion. But very, very fine image nonetheless. Great natural framing as to this finch coming down into the lower left corner, and certainly an image to be proud of. Wonderful. We talked about tilting before. So let's say this is a model. We're in the studio. Amazing what tilting can do in post-production. Just a little. Great eyes. These lemurs are very, very famous, of course, for their eyes, the size and the color tones, and you handle that so well. Your background being straight black, perfect. Great call. Wonderful texture. Yeah, that's a fine image. Really, really good. You know, when you've got whites like that and you're in really, really tight, so easy to blow them out. But you didn't. They're good. They're nice. They're nice value. Nice value. Thank you. Nice detail in the egret. I don't know if your software has the capability of removing objects, but taking out the other egrets would be a consideration. Asking yourself, do those other egrets in the frame contribute to the composition? My opinion is they do not. In fact, that they do take away. And if they weren't there, it becomes a different image altogether. Your detail on the whites is strong. Capturing that wide open, looking at the detail is terrific. But see, not everybody has your software application to remove objects that big. But if you do, I would recommend you take them out. They're not contributing factors to the overall final print. Background popping through the trees there, it's a bit hot, but I think overall, Robert, it's a great shot, great action shot, great detail. You can see the way those feather tips go up like that. Yeah, one to be proud of. Thank you. This is another example of shutter speed. And I'm going to assume that because he has these things in its mouth and because it's flying sideways, that it is a bird exiting a bird feeder. Just guess, but that's my guess. And we talked about 2 days ago about anytime you have a stationary position where, you know, birds or other things are going to be visiting. For instance, we talked about a horse going around the barrel. And how do we get that tack sharp every single time? And that is through what we call pre-focusing on a specific spot and then let the action come. We've already focused on it because we know where they're coming. So bird feeder images, and just an assumption on my part that this is one of those, pre-focusing on the bird feeder, knowing the birds are going to come in and take off, would have caused this subject to be sharper. Something to think about. Background, perfect. Nice colors. Interesting wing position. We don't always see a wing position like that. But it's a fine story about a bird who's got some food and he's going to go off and probably eat it himself and not share it with anybody. Fine shot. That's another one of those images where I saw it for the first time. I went like that. Our subject course is the bee. Our subject course is gathering pollen from this wonderful sunflower, I imagine. But that right edge is a distraction. But what if that right edge became a foreground instead? And we went clockwise 90 degrees. Now we've got that, what we're calling a distraction, an important element in the composition acting as a foreground. And I think we've been able more to concentrate on the bee gathering pollen if you would just consider clockwise 90 degrees. And little d haze kind of tighten it up. Very nice. Now, normally, and we talk about the eyes all the time, I don't like eyes closed. We don't need closed eyes. Here it works. Here it works, and it works nicely. Out at night, catching a snack, nobody's around, I'm tired. See the story that's coming out of these closed eyes? I should be sleeping by now. Well, there, my wife sent me out to get something to eat. That, you know, this is how these things just evolve. So the eyes closed, perfect, love it. The tree on the left, however, I think should be cropped out. It acts as a barrier. So if it's possible to come in, it's going to give us a very, very portrait aspect ratio. Maybe we can steal a little from the bottom. Yeah, take a little off the left, come up from the bottom to a couple inches below the hands. Might be something to consider. The red stands there all by itself, fine with it. It's a natural plant, but the expression on the face here is really good and nicely captured. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, that's a good one. Look at what's the story? We've got the hand of man dealing with security, and we've got a natural element dealing with security, and they work. They're both doing the same thing. And that's interesting. Whoever took this has a really good sense of capturing a story. Why would you normally take a photograph of a security camera? You wouldn't. Why would you normally take a picture of that lizard by itself? Well, you might. But together, it's the contrast between modern day security and natural security. Hand of man, animal world working together. Very well thought out. Like the texture in this wall here, stands up nicely. It supports the texture in the lizard. The blue in the sky is even and balanced, doesn't take away from the composition. It's really well thought out, very well thought out. Thank you, Susan. So I guess my question is, if this shot was staged, which is fine, then the pillow in the background's got to go. Pillow in the background is taking away from our subject looking at this book. too many colors. It mixes it up. If it was, in fact, you just came walking through the room, you got your camera with you and you see the scene and bang, you capture it, that's okay. But if it was staged and you're going to do it again, or things that are similar to this, take away the confusing geometry and multicolors of what's in the background. It just simply takes away from the overall subject. But interesting, you know, again, here's a story, dog reading a book. That's interesting. Good one, thank you. Nice tight image of the parrot. I'd like to see green desaturated, take that green down. Great detail in the beak and in the eye. Eyes looking at our viewer, like that very much. It's a nice shot of a parrot. We're in tight, people can get an idea what it's really like, you know, in a parrot's life. But the light value and saturation value of green takes away from, my opinion, the overall composition. Let's take green down. And I think you'd be very pleased with that. Maybe a little dehaze, a little bit of sheen in the parrot. Dehaze will take care of that. Yep. Ah.
Okay. All right, Dave Woolley, you're doing the.
Turn on the audio. Animal awards, Liz, first one.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Honorable mention, Beauty on the Inside, a lovely shot of a vulture. Nathan Pavish, nicely done, Nathan.
Oh, gosh.
Morning, Grizzly Sashimi, Dan Robusto's ad, or image rather. I too, when I look at this, caught the direct involvement of the eyes on the maker. Just a wonderful capture of the shot at that specific time, that just that moment. Nicely done. Next. Morning Dude, Bob Richardson's shot. I would follow up with what David had to say. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, highly detailed shot. And the color blends, the green color blends into a very muted background. It all just goes together so well. Very nice, very nice. Next, please. Thorny Perch, also an honorable mention. I never thought of the image as being turned 90 degrees. I just thought it never hit me. And looking at it now, it seems like it very well could be. The background of this is so well blended with the body of the bird. It's just a nicely done shot. Next, Liz. Emerald Jewels of the Air. Again, a kind of a green masterpiece on this. Patricia, you captured the background very well with a very highly detailed subject itself. And never having looked at a lot of hummingbird pictures, but I've never seen one that had that kind of a detail on the back end of it, on the tail. Such a nice flow of movement through the subject, nose to tail, beak to tail. Well done. Next, please. Second place, Linda Burke with the Key Walking on Ice. I agree. When I looked at this, just how the image, so soft of an image and so muted of a color, just enough to make it a color image, but just very well done. The background, the isolation of the bird is a soft isolation on the ice piece with the background. Just a very well structured image and great color harmonies on it. And next, Liz, for the winner is Kay Wells, Living in a Bubble. I spoke with her about this image last week, and Kay shot this. You look at this and you say, well, this had to be underwater, or was it done in an aquarium? No, she was 65 feet underwater, or 95 feet underwater in Indonesia taking this picture. How she got the light there, I don't know. It's all natural light. It's just such a soft image and a very tiny subject. The whole image is very tiny. just well composed, a lot of effort to get it, and it shows. It certainly is deserving of the blue ribbon for the animals. Well done.
All right then. We are ready for you, Dave. Dave Bowers.
Oh, creative. Boy, I tell you, this is right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I,
All right, here comes the first one.
this is photography. To me, creativity is the artistry, because capturing an image with your camera is, for me, the beginning. And I think when we go through these images here from the other members of the club, you're going to see their personal tastes come on into their canvas, if you will. And here's a wonderful example right here. So yeah, I love the creative aspect of everything. And so let's all enjoy this segment together. Maybe we can influence some people to be more experimental with their photography. So let's take a look at it. Number one here, encompassing beauty, the soft pastels, wonderful, lovely. Would this shot have been better if it wasn't diffused like that? No, this is a wonderful rendering. It's a very strong creative effect. The pastel tones, the background doesn't interfere. The noise level doesn't interfere. It's a wonderful canvas. It really is. Great job. Thank you. I think we might be back in George L. Smith State Park. This is interesting application of capturing those cypress trees. That's not an easy shot to take. The geometry is really strong. The color balances are right there. It's just a personal take. I think it's wonderful. On metal, I think it'd be a wonderful rendering on metal.
Oops. Ignore me. Everywhere.
I don't think the title's right. That's just, I'm looking at the title, retired from service, and it doesn't make, my opinion, doesn't make sense for that image.
No, it doesn't.
I'm sorry?
I said, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. And we've all talked all the time how important titling is. Titling is your way of getting the viewer to think the way you think. You can generate interest and mood and gesture in the viewer with the title. And once they're leaning that way, they'll think that way. But a fine shot nonetheless. Thank you, Anita. Next. Another good rendering of pastel tones. Beautifully done. These types of images can be shot in many, many different ways. Of course, one is very slow, shutter speed. Shooting things out of focus. Shooting things out of focus with a slow shutter speed. I mean, it all gives you different results, but this is balanced. And when you're doing things like this, the tones should be balanced. So let's take a look at the pink tones, if you will. They're from right to left, wonderful. The greens, left to right, wonderful, beautiful, balanced image. It would be an interesting thing if the maker like this, you can make ceramic tiles out of photography now. Imagine something like this and ceramic tiles put in the bathroom. Wouldn't that be, I mean, that's a nice commercial application for an image like this. Either as a border in a kitchen or something in a bathroom. Carol, think about that. Go into the tile business. Dreaming of Charleston. Like the watercolor effect, very much. I like the water falling into the fountain, and there's enough room in the foreground so that you can see the result of that falling water. You can see the ripples in the, that all contributes to this image, gives you a sense of a lot of fluid flowing down here, and the maker cropped it so well so you can see its reflective use in the image. Watercolor is a nice thing. Good job. You know, in images like this, you know, we talk about noise from time to time. Like this watercolor image here, you really don't have to worry about noise. In fact, maybe the more noise, the better. It's one of those things. When you're doing artistic applications like this, you have to throw some of the other things out that we talk about in photography, because right here, that gritty, textury look really works well. That's good. Thank you, Cindy. I love the antiquity of this. When I saw it for the first time, I thought, gee, that would be great as black and white. Man, was I wrong. Because the key color here is rust. This is all about rust. And it's so well displayed in the texture, the color tones, the even tones, the coming out of that lower left corner. This is a special image. This is really, really good.
I just noticed the title here is Retired from Service. Isn't that the one that we got confused about before?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But this one here checks all the boxes. Really does. This is so well done. Here, you know, you're dealing with metal, so highlights can easily find their way into metal. But I don't see them here. Now you could say, well, Dave, it's because of the rust. Well, I understand. But the grit shows up well. The tone is good. It's not too red, not too orange. So my initial take was, when I saw it for the first time, black and white. Wrong. Perfect. Good one, Deb. So we talked about highlights. Boy, do they work here. They contribute to this one. Is this the library where we meet? Anybody recognize that?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Okay. If you're involved with architectural photography, geometry is what you really should concentrate on. And that is done here so very, very well. Checks all the boxes specific to architectural photography. Really good. The movement speaks volumes. Can you see there's a subject in the bottom there? It looks like a gentleman looking out. And the fact that he's diffused, it's hard to make him out. He's in the center of one of those openings there. Works. Blues, yellows of equal value. Works. You could argue, if you want to find, if you really want to drill down and find something to talk about, the color red on the right edge is a little too much. If that could be dropped down 50%. Well thought out, beautifully crafted. You're an artist. Great shutter speed. We talked about pulsars 2 nights ago. These pulsars work very well. They don't dominate. There's just enough there. Like the movement. I like the flag fluttering. You can see it because of the long exposure. Works. You don't necessarily see a complete vehicle there. You just see the light. So this is a study in light, and just as the title suggests, neon lights. Really well done. Cropping, spot on. Left room at the top of that flagpole. It's a non-issue. Perfect. The maker needs to be proud of that shot. That's so well done. Next. These are tough shots to do. High key, very, very difficult. A lot of work in post-production. The fact that it's off to the right and not smack dab center, love it. This is nice. Metal or acrylic will be a nice way to present this. When you're dealing with high key, the highlights can find their way in to a point where they're too high. These are perfect. It's a wonderful study in architecture. The focus is sharp and certainly something to be proud of. A lot of work in post-production here, I'm guessing. Good one, Ed. Pulsar works here very well. It allows the light to go from the background right up to the viewer. Just enough, doesn't dominate, allows the sky to stand on its own merits. Wonderful texture in the foreground. In fact, it creates, of course, the leading line. Nice landscape image. There's an area off to the right where you can see where the waves are breaking and throwing some of the sea into the air. Liz, who's running the arrow? The pointer. Who's running it?
I'm running I can run it. What do you want me to do?
So can you point to the spray, the ocean spray off to the rocks, off to my right? No.
Right here?
Yeah,
Okay.
right there. Yeah, so if that could be brightened so it stands out, I think that could be a nice contributing factor. It shows action. It shows like, it gives more meaning to the environment. Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys could see that mouse.
Yeah, so Liz,
Yes, sir.
let's keep doing that. When I start talking about certain things, can you go there with the arrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we learned something here. All right, Linda, good job. Okay. I studied this one a long time. Great example of line. But I'm trying to figure out how many layers. To me, it looks like layers. For instance, the sky is gray, the ocean is blue, the wave coming up is white, and the foreground is black and white. There are certain people who would call that color pop. Let's assume for a moment that the sky and the foreground is black and white, and that the maker wanted to preserve the color blue and white. It's called color pop. But I'm having trouble mixing the black and white with the white, the black of the foreground, the white of the waves, the blue of the ocean, and the gray of the sky. However, it works. On acrylic, on metal, very interesting. Sailboat sailing from right to left, plenty of room to go. Well done. Well, let's look at the title. What's it say? Ocean Blue. Blue is dominant color. So that was handled very well, where the maker decided to use a title that talks about the competition. Good call. Good one, Lisa. So here we're dealing with layering. I do compositions in layering every day. And there's a delicate balance putting something into your frame and then something else and something else. And in order to make it work, it has to be the same color temperatures, the same textures, the same everything, so it looks real. Here, the intent is magnificent. Young child walking through a bed of flowers. but the child looks like it was placed there. So how do we solve that problem? When doing layers, one of the tools you'll find to be a great advantage is called opacity. It's a slider, of course. And by adjusting the opacity, in this case, either the background or the subject, it will help you greatly blending together different textures and light values. Opacity is what we call it in Lightroom, but consider using that if in fact you have that post-production software. The intent here is strong, really, really strong. The masking of the subject is too sharp. The head of the subject it looks like it's been cut out with scissors, which in fact, that's what we do when we take out subjects from things. We actually take them out and we create what's called a PNG file. PNG file allows you only to maintain that subject and everything else is gone. So in creating the PNG file and cutting out the subject, when you go around the edges, it can't be sharp. It can't be like that. It has to be soft. It has to be soft. You have to feather the edges when creating PNG files. And then when you put them in, it's more natural. Then adjust it with opacity. It'll all come together very, very nicely. Nice image. I'm guessing that the camera was spun on something, or you took a glass and put it in front of the lens to create that effect. Both work. I'm going to go with the camera being spun. Interesting. Love the colors. Good color mix. Creates a very strong sense of depth. Now, when I say creates a sense of depth, that's done with light. Light to dark will create depth. That's what we have here. Light to dark. So now I'm looking down a hole. Very, very nice. Very imaginative. Thank you, Lori. Raindrops keep falling on my head. That's an old CD, I guess. Very creative. I'm going to guess. If you put those on one at a time with an eyedropper, boy, that's great. I would think that if you did put them on with an eyedropper, that you're a former cake decorator, something like that, because they're really good. Really good. I think that very, very imaginative. And I like that. Very, very interesting. Like the rainbow tones on the CD. This was not an easy composition. This took time. And whatever time that you put into it, Mike, you can be rewarded. That's one of those things you look at for quite a while and you think about how, why, but the end result is it's a fine composition. And thank you for taking all the time to do it. It's very interesting. Thank you. Okay. Shall I mention AI? So I'm not going to be accusatory in any way because it's a great insect, but I've never seen one like that. But the category is creative, and therefore it's fine. I like the gesture. I like the fact that you didn't cut the antenna off at the top. Perfect. I like being looked at from a compound eye point of view. that's kind of neat. Yeah. I like the light tones in the background. That light green cast that goes through the background works so well with the subject. It's like a half tone of the greens that are in the subject. It's sharp. I can see the lines. The eyes look great. The detail in the arms hanging this way, tail pointing to the corner. Very nice work, Patrick. Very nice. Thank you. So when I see a shot like this, I'm trying to figure out how was it captured? Were you on a tripod and did you take some, or in a studio and take some leaves and just drop them, let them fall? Because if you did, it worked nicely. I think your shutter speed on a shot like this is right where you want to be. That's right in the wheelhouse for a shot like this. If these leaves were tack sharp, it's not the same. This is falling leaves. This is a classic example of action blowing leaves, and you can do that, of course, through shutter speed. That's really well done. You want to consider toning down blue so that the leaves stand up a little, maybe. And on my monitor, there's quite a bit of noise. Doesn't bother me. I'm just saying that's what I'm looking at. Very creative, very creative. Yeah, good one. This took some time. I'm hoping that it's taken in a studio environment where you can control your factors, but very well thought out. Thank you, Robert. I'm trying to figure out how this picture was created. Not that it matters because the end result is wonderful. Are these guitar strings maybe? Vibration of strings? If Robert's on, he wants to send a message. Looks like a musical instrument. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, it's terrific. Now we presented it as a aspect ratio this way. If we turned it this way, it would be just as good. Probably good. Metal, that's a nice place to print something like this. Your blacks are great. Your contrasts are wonderful. And there's just enough light through these geometric patterns to draw attention to these fine lines and the stratification of whatever that is in there. It's so well done. You wonder sometimes how people come up with these great ideas.
By the way, the title on that is Cosmic Guitar.
So I was right about guitar. Yeah, okay. Great job. Cosmic Guitar. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah,
And we found out that the title on, remember the one that you were looking at, George L. Smith State Park? That was also an incorrect title. The title was Falling into Multiples. But I think but I want to point out to everybody, just because we've got some goof ups on the PowerPoint, Dave judged separately, not like this. Like he had the correct titles, I think, when you were judging.
That's right. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But now, when I look up there and I look at the title, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
maybe that's how Guitar Strings was stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Because it's so well done. You know, if you're a musician and you have images hanging on your walls in your home, this is one that should be on your wall. You know, if you're a guitar player or something that deals with strings, that's good.
And the Leafs picture was Alive with Love.
Okay, so we have a few of them that are wrong. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hit next.
Yes.
If I can. There we go.
You know what's wrong with this? Nothing. It's brilliant. This is a great, great image. Boy, I studied this for a long time. And one of the things I always look for, of course, is eye contact. Could be nature's photography. It could be scenes like this. Let's take a look. Let's take our time here because there's so many things that are going on, but there's a common thread. And the common thread is the look of the people in each one. So let's start with the guy down that lower right corner. Well, he's looking at the maker. He's got a place to go. Everybody here is going someplace. Everybody here is, for the most part, looking ahead. There's an older man right in the center with his hair sticking out, shoulders are forward. He's possessed. He's going to get through this scene. The woman in the lower bit down here with a white scarf on in the foreground, she's confused. She's saying something. This guy's saying something. That guy's saying something in this crowded walkway of color, texture, and geometry. What a combination. What a combination. Oh my word. Yeah, I studied this one. And I see it was taken in Paris. So halfway through studying it, went out and got myself a glass of red wine just to make it all fit together. Very good. Next. Very good. Very nice. Okay. Sundial, solar clock. See the skeleton in the towards the right edge? Yeah, that one. Does it belong? Question mark. Yeah, it does. It contributes to the story. Because these instruments of time and direction are all about the past, the present, the future, and you timestamp it with a skeletal. Just a little bit, just a little bit. So someone says, well, what's it doing there? It's part of the composition. It speaks of these instruments of time and travel and location. I believe I'm right when I say that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad it's there. It really helps. It really, really does. Okay, thank you. Controlled chaos. So there is a commonality here amongst the writer, and the commonality is she is expressing excitement, desire, and effort and skill. If one of those writers was not, then you lose that continuity of gesture. Here, it's all held together so well, when in fact they're separate images. The horse mimics the same gesture. The fact that the horse that was put into this composite off on the right and his leg is pointing forward, that's well placed. If that horse, where its leg is sticking out on the right, was put somewhere else, it wouldn't fit as well. That the symmetry here is wonderful. The expression is terrific. The hand-to-man is gone. And we've talked about doing rodeos before and having the hand-to-man so omnipresent. Here it doesn't enter in this photograph whatsoever. This is a brilliant image, well composed, and I wish I had the skill to do it. Okay. Thank you, Sam.
Okay. Dave, Woolley.
Okay, Liz, the first honorable mention is Dreaming of Charleston, Cindy Merle's shot. The second time we've seen that fountain in the presentations. I don't think there's any additions to what Dave's already said. I think one of the things that we've looked at in Dave as a judge is a judge that has an in-depth understanding of non-straight photography. And he has spent a reasonable and expected amount of time in critiquing these creative images. This was one certainly falls to that. Next. There's nothing again to say here. It's just such a well done. Anita's images always are well done. The ones she shows us and the ones she doesn't show us that I've seen. They're just all well composed and such a wonderful flow of colors. It exhibited here, just well done, well done. Welcome to the library, Deb Burnett. This image was kind of interesting to me because it was a little different than what we've seen in the other creative images here. And I listened to what Dave had to say about it and saw some things in the image that I hadn't seen before. Again, just well critiqued and well discussed. And this was an image, Sam Henderson's image. When I saw this, I just never saw anything like this before. And I look at it and say, how did he do this? Was this multiple exposures? And how did he blend it? Sam has the images we've seen from Sam. He's primarily a member of St. Augustine. There's a lot of technical whiz to them. And this one really exhibits that. It's just something you look at, the different faces on the rider as she's coming through this. One has to believe that it's sequential shots, high-speed shots, but it's just well done, technically well done, technically well exposed, and it just leaves a lasting impression on the rider and the differences in expression through a very, very short time span. Next. And again, nothing more to say here. David pretty much expressed it, and it's one certainly I certainly wouldn't argue with. It was just something that I've looked at, and in multiple exposures, there's a way that they can be done, that they fit together, and a way that they come and you look at them and try to figure out what the maker was looking at here. Nothing to talk about. I think Dave just covered about everything on it that makes this image what it is. So well done. People.
People.
People being people.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm getting distracted. There we go.
The subject is not smiling. Thank goodness. It's not normal to smile. People aren't traditionally happy. This is my personal opinion. Smiling, my opinion, hides the true emotions that people feel inside. And yet, how many times do people get together and we take out the cell phones? All right, everybody smile. It's not normal. That's normal. That's good. And look at the lighting, that left to right. Oh, look, the lighting on this is special. Yeah, this is really good. And the cropping, a little more room at the top for the hat might be a consideration. Highlights under control. Blacks are wonderful. It's a really wonderful portrait in black and white of someone. I feel her emotions by virtue of the fact that she's not smiling. But here's what you go back.
Go back.
Here's my interpretation. I told you I didn't want my picture taken. Just take the picture. You know what I'm saying? You feel that in her? That's what she's saying with that expression. So when someone's not smiling, you can read into their emotion inside of what they're feeling. Hurry up, I've got better things to do than have you take my picture, as an example. Anyway, that's the way I feel about smiling. It's not natural. Next. Now here's the exception. This is a wonderful example of just pure happiness, being excited. And that's the expression that's given on the face. And so that's another wonderful place where we can see the expression. So this category, people, is all going to be about expression, gesture, and mood. And we've all been taught, thanks to the fine people at F3C, that these are the characteristics we look at in determining what is a really fine photograph, as this one is. I would like to have seen, however, the fact that the item that she's swinging from wasn't chopped off. Now, the problem with that is that if it was raised higher, so we saw more of the object that she's hanging on, then the aspect ratio becomes like this. So if you open it up, I'm guessing most likely, there's things in there that the maker didn't want to show. So in order to just take all those things out, we did it through cropping. Very nice image. A lot going on, cluttered. What's the subject? The flame. And the flame is captured very, very nicely and supported by the colors and the darkness. And it's further supported by all the people contributing to the composition. We've got people who are watching in the background, and that's wonderful. We've got people who are trying to get aloft. We've got that burner on. You can almost hear the fire going up. It was done so well. When you've got a contrast in light between darkness and an open flame, and it doesn't blow out, you've done a great job. Could you say, yeah, Dave, the lights up there in that flame are a bit blown out? Well, they are a little bit, but that's okay. You know, I'm not too disappointed in that. We've got a great capture of the people contributing to the scene, as I mentioned, and I think it's terrific. Thank you. Timing is everything, especially if we're going to capture a shot like that. I do a lot of Civil War reenactments, and I do a lot of cannon firings. And getting a shot like that is difficult, I will tell you that. However, the right edge of a little bit of a cannon sticking out, that staircase, I think we should come in from that right-hand edge and crop that out. It's not contributing. A portion of an object cut off contributes nothing to a composition. So a little cannon sticking out there, if that could be taken away. Unfortunately, the fellow in white holding his hand to his ears, I'd like to save him though. You know, it tells us, oh, it's loud, you know, I'm going to cover my ears, just like the other fellow there in blue, but the cannon sticking out. I think some type of spot removal would work rather than taking it out, but great timing. Thank you. Shooting concerts is not easy, especially when you consider light. Many years ago, I was a photographer for a ballet company in Raleigh, North Carolina. And you get your settings and you're shooting, and then the lighting director is back and they're changing everything over. So shooting at concerts can be a real test. But that is a fine job. I would have liked to have seen his eyes and his face. And I think maybe cropping up from the bottom, you might want to consider. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying if you did, you get that triangle shape out of there. It shows action. I love the blacks. Very, very nice. Bow and Soul speaks volumes for the title. Good job on that. Good one, Glenn. So the first time I saw this, I made some notes. One of the notes I wrote was hand a man. I don't like that. But it works. He's a fisherman, and that is what he does for a living. That net speaks. That cigarette hanging out speaks. And the morning sunrise also speaks to the composition. We've got the fact that he's a fisherman and there's his net. He works hard and there's his cigarette. We've got the light coming up in the morning that speaks of timing. It all works together. Glenn, you see things that mere mortals simply pass by. Good job. Big splash. The resulting spray is what holds this thing together. If you want to emphasize the resulting spray, consider texture slider and clarity and bringing up the whites just a skosh. Because that is the shot. Surfboard into the lower corner, wonderful. But I think the subject here is the resulting splash from the wave and the surfboard. And if we could emphasize that a little more clearly, that would add to the composition. So once again, textures are going to work. Clarity is going to work. Sharpening may work. Be careful when you do these things, of course, you're introducing noise. So be conscious of the fact you will be when you do those, there's noise going to appear up at the top just a bit. But a great action shot. Shutter speed was I think fine. Maybe a little more would help. But again, the emphasis, the subject is the spray. Great action shot. The crowd that is evident in the background works. Depth of field, which speaks to that, works. Sharp, good action. Yeah, it's all there. Got all the wonderful components. The blue line going around the ring, maybe if you could tone that down so it didn't run through their heads. Or take it out. Take that blue line out where that goes through their heads, would allow the subject to stand up a little more. Very nice, Jim. Thank you for contributing. This image here has a little bit of that tilt. Remember we talked about tilt? The fact that she's tilted back. That's so important. I think the lighting on the face is a bit harsh. And softening that might be a consideration. Yeah, that's a fine portrait.
The title's wrong. The title's wrong again.
Okay. Yeah, because she's not heavy with years. she's 10% of my age.
The title is Homestar Look.
Yeah, good tilt, Liz.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's just fine. Thank you. Lighting here is a bit much. I can see where the maker visited the saturation slider a bit. It's a little bit backlit. You know, backlighting can really work sometimes. Here's a good example of where it does. But I think that the orange-yellow too much of a contribution. And again, your viewer always goes to the light source. And so that's where I went. And oh, and by the way, there's some people there. So I would drop the background light intensity down. And you've got a very, very fine image there. Yeah, especially on metal. Thank you. Great location for that paddle border in line with the morning sun. And that's the image, that's the photograph. And I think that if we could have drilled down and cropped in and made that subject with the sun larger, it would have brought a lot more to the image. You've got, you know, we talk a lot about give him the place to go. Well, you gave him a place to go, all right. There's a long way. There's too much space, I think, on the left. I would like to have seen more of him in the sun because your timing on the shot was really good. Just having him backlit by a rising sun in the foreground with that wave there. Let's take 2 inches off the top, Take 3 inches off the left, and let's make him bigger. Because it's really a fine image and so well timed. But so let's celebrate it. Let's make him bigger. Interesting. I was trying to find the relationship between the nails and a ball bat and the fact that she was trying to floss. Guess it's flossing. We have a very creative mind behind this camera. Expression is really good. Really great expression. Isn't that what people photography is about? Gesture, mood. Yeah, that's very well thought out. Chewing on a ball bat, I go, all right. Okay, it works. Got our tilt there. Nice teeth. It's good. I like it. Black and white on glossy paper. Yeah. Michael Hayward. Michael, you see things that mere mortals pass by. That's well done. Thank you. Photojournalism. So if you're a photojournalist, your image does not have to be perfect. The photojournalist is here to present a visual image, to create a story. And so you see the flag being clipped at the top. Remember we talked about clipping? Doesn't matter. See that half person on the left-hand side? Doesn't matter. All those things go out that we've been talking about when it comes to photojournalism, because the emphasis there is to tell a story. And that photograph tells a very fine story. And we should be concentrating as viewers on what's the story they're telling. It's very evident. So this is a wonderful photograph. The doctor holding the stretcher there with the blue smock on, looking at the camera, wonderful. The fellow off to the right holding the flag, looking at the people with a rather disappointed look on his face. Perfect. That's photojournalism, and that's a great image. Thank you. So I was impressed with this by the fact of contributing elements of the subject pointing. That fingernail down at the bottom, pointing at her eye in the snake, perfect. The tail of the snake pointing to the head and her nose, wonderful. The snake emanating from the upper left-hand corner, wonderful contributing aspect. And getting that snake's bend, twist to line up with her eye, yeah, that really holds it together. That's a very, very fine photograph. Black and white was certainly the way to go here. Side view. I'd like to hear the backstory on this. This is clearly in a studio setting, I would imagine. Very willing model. Whoever directed her on how to hold her hand really knew their stuff. The fact that her other fingers are pointed down because they're not contributing to the image, but the one is pointing up, that's so well thought out. You know, that something like that doesn't come naturally. You really got to know your stuff in doing portraiture when you get down to the details of the fingers and the hand, because everything contributes to the final image. And that one finger pointing to her eye and the snake's head, brilliant. That is so good. I'd like to see a little bit more room to the right. give our subject a place to go. Diffusing the light in the background, great job. There's a sense of antiquity here that I like. The rugged guy, tough beard, tough hat. I don't believe this was staged in any way. I just think this was a shot taken and submitted. And the fact that it's a torn garment, you seem to find detail in that lower right corner. This is really good. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is, if it was possible, to give the subject more room to walk, give them a sense of going someplace. And you probably could have sacrificed a little bit off the left. Nice image, Mike. Good going. This is a great example of filling the composition. If you are in the business of earning a living, this image would generate income to you from the company that made the surfboard. Whenever you're shooting sports and you're doing it for a living, it's critically important that you get the maker of the equipment they use, so you can sell it back to them for advertising. And in this case, they would purchase this item because the surfboard stands out. It's supported wonderfully by the surf rider. In the background, you can see the spray, so we can see there wasn't a calm sea. This was a violent environment where this picture was taken, and the maker, who was the maker? Nancy saw that and was able to capture it. So Nancy, get in touch with the company that make that surfboard, and you can put a jingle in your pocket maybe. A little bit of texture on that spray in the back might be something to consider, and the highlights in the back might be something to consider, but a wonderful sports action caption. Good one. Okay. The lighting is wonderful. The highlight in the back, perfectly done. Like the gesture, like the hand. I'm trying to figure out the costume. First thing that comes to mind, there's this new baseball league, and I don't know if anybody knows about it. They've been talking on TV where there's something bananas, yellow bananas or nano bananas.
Savannah bananas.
What's it called?
Savannah bananas.
Savannah bananas. I was wondering if that's the Savannah banana mascot or something. But let's get away from that. I like the hand down to the corner. I like him looking off, and he's not looking straight at the viewer. He's looking at something, and I'm interested to know, what's he looking at? That's a story. That's how gesture invokes a story. And so this is so well thought out. Your colors are good. They're even. There are no highlights. A very fine photograph. This is another image from an indoor rodeo. I love the gesture. It's a gesture of defeat. But unfortunately, that timing clock in the background is catching my eye. Its light value is too strong, and that's where I go. And I'm trying to figure out what to say. I shouldn't want to have to figure out what it says. I want to feel how he feels. And that takes my mind off to the side. Indoor rodeos are a tough, tough assignment. Yeah, good one. Nice one. Nice one, Nathan. This is a great composition. Old Italy, I'm going to guess. Bocce. Look at the gesture. Look at the faces. everybody's focused on where the balls are.
Yeah.
And then you got the supporting crowd in the back because they're coming up to play next, and this is the elimination round. See how the story's coming out when you look at the people. These are these old guys, and they've been playing this all their lives, and they're getting ready to argue about where the ball placement is in relation to how you score this thing. The shadows indicates the time of day. Really good, really nice. Yeah, Bocce and a little Italy, yeah. Yeah, nicely done. I like the depth of field. Don't go away. Depth of field on this, showing those old signs in the background works. Here's a nice example of the depth of field working. You can tell it's an old neighborhood and all these old retailers there, and these guys get together in a park and they play bocce late at night, and they go home and their wives say, "Where have you been?" You know, so that's a story that I feel when I see an image like that. Wonderful composition, Ron. Nice surfing image. When I saw this the first time, one of the things that jumped out at me was a triangle, a geometric shape that fits so well in this image. The yellow triangle that goes from right to left, and the subject is right in the middle of it. Framing him. And then that white wave that splashes up there gives it more contrast. So the fact that that yellow is there works. I would like to have seen a little more light placed on his face, through a mask. So if you could mask the surfer so that we could see more of his face, his gesture, that would be a wonderful contribution. Very nice. Back to the indoor rodeos. Great shot. Great shot of the horse as well. Hitting those balloons like that, and the fact that there's still a fragment of the balloon left that was on the post. I think the background highlights are a bit hot. I would like to see that toned down if possible. Shutter speed on this shot was terrific. The horse has already got its eyes on going someplace else for the next target. The rider is in full support. They're working together so well as a team, and that's what was captured. But I think the highlights in that background got to be toned down just a bit. But a great shot. Oh, this is so very, very good. I don't know who the maker was, but I'm surprised that you were allowed in a casino with a camera. Now, this could have been a private event, or maybe they waived that rule because years ago you couldn't bring a camera in. This is a top shelf people picture. And it's supported so well by the man wearing that shirt that enhances the fact that this is a casino and we're gambling. Those hands on the right edge, incomplete and cut off, perfect, works well. Gives us the impression it's really crowded there. And somebody's leaning over you, wants to be part of the action. Look at the supporting faces in the background. You got the woman looking in. It might be his wife or something. Is look at the bet. And then you got the guy behind her wondering, geez, I wonder if she's alone tonight. You know, these are the things that pop into my head, you know. I'm just wondering. That's a gesture. That's a gesture. And so I love this shot. It is so well done. The blacks in the back is good. You want to take out those light sources in the back there, those two little dots, that's fine. But that's an impressive image. And thank you for contributing that one. That's a good one to be sure. Okay, my thoughts on this is that the foreground is taking away from the image. if the maker would take those stanchions out of there. I understand we're cutting him off, but by taking those stanchions out of there, because it's blocking me going into the scene, we would have a larger image and we would see what he's doing. He's talking on the phone and he's gesturing with his hands. He's having a conversation on a cell phone, but it's hard for me to see all that going on with those stanchions in the front. So my thought would be, take them out. And I understand we're cutting them off at the knees, but I think taking them out is the right thing to do. Room to walk on the left, it's come out from the right. Room there is fine. You want to come down and take that, you want to take a ½ inch off the top. Nah, either way works. Yeah, very well done. Thank you. There's another one of those images I looked at for a long time. And there's so many things in here that are really good. I like the desolation part of it. It's early morning, it's foggy, and this guy's going to go surfing. Would it have been something to consider if you removed every single person in the background, creating more of a scene of aloneness on the first one on the beach? Here he's one of several. Take those people out in the background, he's the only one. He's the sole surfer. I got here first. I got up early. And that would be the narrative of this image. That tractor line in the back that works its way from front to the background is part of it. Takes your eye down the beach. That's good. But the amount of, and grain works great. The grain here is good. That's a fine image, the first wave, Tom. Really nice. Street strings. I don't care for the hand of man in the background, but I do love the face and the hair and the hands on the instrument. I didn't know until I saw this instrument that the strings color apparently must mean different things. Is that a harp or a lute? I don't know, but it's fine. I would like to have seen something done with the hand of man being removed from the back, and a little bit more room on the left, I think would have contributed nicely. But I love the detail. The study in this image to me is the face, rugged, worn, weathered, face of concentration and his hands on the strings. That tells a nice story. Good one. Good one, Wayne.
Here we are at our final, that was our final category.
Oh, let's start over.
Dave, you need a glass of Chardonnay after this. All right, Dave Woolley. Hey,
the first one does.
Yeah, but before we do that, I was going to say, everybody, before you go, remember that the November meeting is Monday the 10th. Okay, that's all. Now we go.
First honorable mention is Heavy with Years. Again, an excellent side lit monochrome image. And the second, well, no, you can continue on, Liz.
Okay.
The first wave is just, Dave just spoke to it. Title pretty much explains what's going on here. Next. Soft Smoke and Sunset Satisfaction. This was an image when I looked at it. I thought this was just an excellent image, giving a sense of a person, the sense of place. He truly appears to be the fisherman. And it's either a sunrise or sunset shot. Well, sunset, it's in the title, as I was informed. It just says so much about the person. The title nails it and the image fulfills it. Next. Third place, Medusa. Michael Hayward's black and white images are interesting, to say the least. And this one continues in that vein. I don't know how he finds these people to pose. It's pretty explanatory. With the thing that caught me too was just the way that the curve of the snake's neck right around the eye. Would maybe like to see more of the eye, but it just adds to the mystery with it. Next, Balloon Sharpshooting Girl. I thought this was an interesting image, action image also. It again, you look at the person, you look at the person on the subject, the intensity of watching the target and shooting a weapon on a horse. And buckshot or none, it still is an interesting image and be a fun competition to watch. The horse did not seem to be bothered by the sound of the gun going off. It's probably not the first time it heard it. Next, and the winner is Savvy Dobbs image. I agreed with or thought like David. I don't know you can have a camera in a casino, but this maybe wasn't a legit casino. It might have been a social event of some sort. But the sharp just makes it a absolute perfect image. He doesn't seem to be concerned about all what's going on the table. He's looking off somewhere else, and we wonder what he's looking at. Either that or he's being smug because all the chips are being pushed over to him at this point. Don't know. Great image, though. So that's it, Liz.
That is it. Okay, everybody, thank you for being on the call. And thank you to Dave Bowers, our judge. And thank you, Dave Woolley, for all your work on competitions for us.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. I really did. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night. Thank you.
Yeah.